Most people are incredibly ignorant about the continent of Africa, and chances are you are too. So let me just drop some facts on you because you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing about the continent. You don't. It is the cradle of civilization. So all the racists out there, your ancestors are African. Everybody migrated out of Africa. The oldest body they've ever found was in Africa. So it's the motherland. Get over all your racism. Ancient Africans had civilization while Europeans were still in caves. You have to understand that most of the things you learn about Africa are through the lens of white supremacy. And white supremacists never want to give any props to Africa. They want to make it look like it's just this dark, backwards continent. But that is not the truth. Ancient Africa had thriving civilizations, thriving kingdoms, thriving queendoms. They had all this shit, but you're not going to learn about it because history's been whitewashed and sanitized, and it's always in favor of white people, and they're never going to tell you anything good about black people because that would make you question the idea of white people being supreme. So yeah, Europeans were in caves and black people, Africans, had civilizations. It is the largest and most diverse continent on the planet. It has 1.4 billion people. It speaks 2,000 different languages, and there's 3,000 different ethnic groups in the continent of Africa. Mathematical tools were found in the continent of Africa that are older than Greece and Rome because a lot of the math and science that you think came from white people came from us. They stole it from us. You have to keep in mind that this is what white people do. They steal. They fucking steal. They're some of the greatest thieves in history. They steal inventions. They steal ideas. They steal people. They steal land. That's what the fuck they do. They're fucking giant thieves, okay? So they stole a lot of their concepts from Africa. So ancient Greece and Rome stole a lot of their concepts and research from Egypt. Egypt has been whitewashed, so y'all believe Egyptians are white, but that's not the fucking truth. The truth is that Egyptians had nappy hair and dark skin. And if you see depictions of Egyptians that have made of themselves, their skin ranges from red to dark brown. And so what happened was white people whitewashed Egypt because Egypt was they recognized that Egypt was advanced. They recognized that a lot of the things that we attribute to white folks came from Egypt. But when they installed white supremacy and they wanted to create this idea that white people are supreme and black people are not, that's when Egyptians became white. Because because otherwise, if we credit Egyptians, which are Africans, as having all of this advanced technology and advanced astronomy and mathematics and all that, then it goes against the idea that white people are supreme. So in order to maintain this lie that white people are supreme and to justify the enslavement of African peoples, they had to then decide that Egypt was white, but Egypt's not white. And you see this in the movies where Cleopatra is white. She's not. She's a black queen. You'll see Moses is white. Moses wasn't white. All kind of people throughout the Bible as white. Jesus, not true. Okay. Ancient Africans mastered geometry, astronomy, and medicine, and these were all studied by the ancient Greek and Romans, right? They studied our shit. They stole our shit because that's what white people fucking do. The first universities were in Africa. First universities. Again, we're here. We're educating people while the Europeans are fucking in caves. The oldest operating university in the world is in Morocco, and it was founded by an African woman. It was richer than Europe before white terrorism. So before the white terrorists came over and robbed Africa of its people, of its natural resources, and totally sliced and diced the continent to create tribal wars and fucking depleted it after colonization, Africa was one of the richest continents. And that's why Europeans came and looted Africa, raped the fuck out of Africa, took the people, took the diamonds, took the gold, took the cobalt, because it was rich and thriving. Mansa Musa of Mali was so wealthy. He's the richest man throughout history, has more money than fucking Donald Trump, Elon Musk, all of them, right? He was the richest man in history, black African king. He was so wealthy that he caused inflation in Europe. He had so much money, he caused inflation in Europe. Global trade power. Africa was a global trade power before white terrorism. So again, thriving, doing so well, then the white terrorism came and fucked it all up. Europeans stole, I already said this, Africa's natural resources. So 30% of the world's minerals are in Africa. They stole diamonds, gold, cobalt, people, etc. The Belgian king murdered 10 million Congolese people for profit. I think it was for ivory. I forgot the other thing. France, Britain, and Portugal had similar horrors, so did similar fucking massacres of African people. 12 million Africans were kidnapped and enslaved. This devastated Africa and made U.S. and the Europe rich. Europe divided African territories and caused instability and wars that even manifest into today. So when the Europeans came and decided, I want to take over this part of Africa, I want to take over that part of Africa, they had no respect for the tribal boundaries. And they ended up putting tribes that were warring against each other in the same space, which caused instability and wars that we see even going on today. So after the Europeans came and fucked up Africa, they left it in ruins, didn't put anything in place. And so that's where a lot of the unrest that you see in the continent, and really most of the continent's at peace, but you're going to hear all the horrible things because white people are always trying to create this narrative that black people are backwards. Africa is a powerhouse for tech, science, and basically STEM. Kenya mobilized banking well before the US. Rwanda has drone delivery of medical supplies, and it was the first of its kind. Africa also leads in renewable energy. So Morocco has the world's largest solar power plant that exports to Europe. So Europe is using Morocco, African's power plant. Ethiopia has the largest hydroelectric project in the world. Mathematics, calendars, and writing systems all came from Africa. Africa had kings, queens, gold, diamonds, government, trade networks, math, astronomy, universities, architecture, and more before white terrorism, before white folks came over and fucked it all up. African medicine is older than white medicine. We were doing brain surgeries and had herbal medicine well before white folks ever did. Many modern pharmaceuticals came from African medicinal plants. Some of the fastest growing economies are in Africa. So Ethiopia, Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria. Nigeria has a thriving film industry called Nollywood. It is the youngest continent. 60% of the population is under 25. It's leading in space technology. So Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt all have space centers. This idea that Africa is all poverty and war is not the truth. Most African nations are at peace, and you have to understand the media is anti-black and is always trying to portray Africa as being backwards. Damn near all the music that you can name in this country has roots in Africa. So techno, house, country, rock music, salsa, blues, jazz, reggae, hip hop, samba, all has African roots. So damn near, if not all the music in this country has African roots, damn near everything. It would be the richest continent had white people not fucked everything up. Africans were here before Columbus. So Mali had a naval expedition of 2,000 ships that went across the Atlantic. The Dogon people were very good in seafaring and were traveling. So there's evidence even from Columbus's own records. Columbus, when he got here, said he reported seeing black-skinned people with gold-tipped spears, which are very similar to what, we had in Africa. Indigenous people described black foreigners who came before Columbus. We were already fucking here. You won't hear that in the history. White people want to act like they discovered this place. You can't discover a place that already has people. And black folks were here first. So this land is my land. I was already fucking here. Thank you very much. So the idea that we just came over on the ships, we were here first. I do believe we came over on the ships as well, but we were already fucking here. Whitey destroyed black libraries and anything that challenged white supremacy. So when white folks came to Africa, when they didn't understand mathematics and astronomy and anything they fucking didn't comprehend, they just destroyed. So they got rid of a lot of the black scholarship that was available because white folks weren't smart enough to comprehend it. So again, they whitewashed the Egyptians. What is it? I can't say this name. Herodotus was the father of history. So Herodotus was the, quote, the father of history, and he was black-skinned with woolly hair. Aristotle classified Egyptians with Ethiopians, calling them dark-skinned. So again, Egyptians were not fucking white. Egyptians' priests said ancestors were from Nubia, which means these are black African territories. Even the Bible equates Egyptians with Nubians who are undeniably black, and Egypt is in Africa, not in the fucking Middle East. So white folks stole African and Egyptian stuff and put them in museums like the Rosetta Stone, which was used to decipher African hieroglyphics, probably saying that wrong, and the bust of Nefertiti, which is in fucking Berlin. So stealing our artifacts, stealing our things that are important to our community, our culture, and putting them in fucking European museums. European mummies were ground into powder as medicine. This is more cannibalism. So we like to say that, you know, oh, Africans are cannibals, but white folks love to eat us, right? European mummies ground in powder and use as medicine. That's fucking eating black mummified bodies. Just like they used to eat us when they lynched us. They took Nat Turner and took his body fat and made it into grease. White folks eat black people. I don't know why. Hippocrates, he's, quote, the father of medicine. He learned everything from ancient black texts that were over 2,000 years old. So he was researching and reading from texts that were 2,000 years old. 2,000 years before his ass showed up as the father of medicine, Africans were already created medicine. He learned everything from us. Do we get any fucking credit? No. This white man gets all the credit as father of medicine when really he stole all this shit from black people. Ancient Africans were doing brain surgery, dental work, had advanced medical practices before Greece even had a fucking medical school. Roman architecture was stolen from the ideas of Egyptians. The Roman calendar was based on African astronomy. Romans used African agriculture to boost food productions. Greek god Hermes was based on the African god Thoth. It's Thoth, Thoth. Many Christian concepts were based in Egyptian religion. Egypt again had math and geometry, science and medicine, astronomy and timekeeping, governance and law. Democracy came from Africa. The Constitution came from Africa. So we'll get to that in just a moment. I have a ton of notes. The Moors ruled Spain from 1711 to 92. The Moors are black Africans and Muslims and Arabs, and they get no fucking credit. They've been written out of the history books, but they ruled fucking Spain. They created universities, libraries, mathematical advancements. You won't hear this shit because, again, white supremacy likes to just erase black people from history. Black inventors, a lot of the inventions that you see in this country that white people take credit for were stolen again from black people because our patents were stolen. We had no fucking, we couldn't, you know, go to court. We couldn't testify against white people. So when they stole shit from us, there was really nothing that we could fucking do about it. So a lot of the things that white people say they created, they stole from us, including rock music, including so many things. I still don't believe Eli Whitney created the goddamn cotton gin. Like, why the fuck would you create that shit? You weren't enslaved. I don't believe it. Cleopatra's been whitewashed. Moses has been whitewashed. Hannibal, which is the greatest military strategist and nearly crushed Rome, has been whitewashed in Hollywood. He was an African. Santa Claus. I didn't know this. Santa Claus was black. He was the Bishop of Myra. He was dark-skinned. And in 1930s, Coca-Cola rebranded Santa Claus as this fat white man in a red and white suit. But that's not how people knew Santa Claus. Aristotle and Plato stole everything they fucking knew from Egypt. And we give these white men all this fucking credit, but really, again, they got that shit from us. Yoga, that we think comes from India, was actually predated in Africa. So before it was discovered in India, you could see, I think it was the Egyptians who had images of people doing yoga poses on their walls. They had these drawings of people doing yoga poses, breath work, and what was it? It was breath work and postures and meditation. These were all things that were happening in the Nile Valley. So Kemetic yoga. So Kemetic means the black land. So there was Kemetic yoga. But again, we don't get any credit. That's a race, and it's been culturally appropriated and rebranded. And now white people act like they created it and all this other bullshit. Algebra, the decimal system, all came from us. George Washington Carver, which everybody says, oh, he invented peanut butter. He was a fucking genius. Henry Ford and Einstein both sought his advice. That's how smart he was. He was a fucking genius. He revolutionized agriculture. All these poor farmers who were growing sweet potatoes and peanuts who weren't making any money. He found over 300 uses for the sweet potato and for peanuts. And what that did is it made these farmers now be able to make money where before their farms were not making any fucking money. He totally geeked out on agriculture. And he was one of the most brilliant minds in the world, but he doesn't get any credit. So the same way we call people Einsteins, if this country wasn't so fucking racist, we would call people George Washington Carvers. We call you a Carver. Because he was brilliant. He was so brilliant. Again, Einstein sought his advice. So it sounds like he may have been even more brilliant than Einstein. But because of white supremacy, he doesn't get his fucking just due. And all you guys have to say about him is that he invented peanut butter. And that's not even accurate. He didn't fucking invent peanut butter. Good Lord. One of the greatest scientists of all fucking time. The Statue of Liberty was black. I know I've gotten away from some African facts. Now I'm just getting to everything. But the Statue of Liberty was black. It was a black woman. The U.S. rejected it. She was a symbolism of black people, being liberated, and the U.S. didn't like that shit. Voodoo. has been a religion that has been used for resistance. So part of the Haitian revolution, the way that they were able to get revolt, Haitian against their colonial rule, they utilize voodoo, and it has been branded as something that we should be feared and something that's evil because white folks, specifically colonists, feared it. They feared the power of voodoo as a religious practice and in empowering Black people to then fight for their rights. What they gave us instead was Christianity, and they wanted to quote all these things from the Bible saying, master, slaves, obey your masters, and, basically all these things that were pro-slavery. So they can use the religion to then say, hey, Black people, you're supposed to be enslaved. And they didn't like voodoo. Voodoo, also known as voodoo, because it empowered us. So Christianity was influenced by voodoo. The U.S. Constitution was inspired by an African system. It's called the Iroquois Confederacy. It was the greatest law of peace, and they got democracy from us as well. So I hope you learned something. I know you did. And if you ever want to compensate me, because, I'm educating your ass for free, you can find me on Venmo, Charla Stevens. You'll see my lovely little picture of me in a yellow dress, looking so pretty. You can always compensate me there. Also, Apple Pay me. You can do that too. But I deserve compensation because I've educated your ass, and you know that you learned something, and hopefully you can educate others because people are so ignorant. Bye.